Hello, I'm Graham Fitch and welcome back to my demonstrations of the chord exercises that are part of my articles on chords in Pianist magazine. This time I'm going to be demonstrating some more advanced techniques. You'll find the scores inside issue number 66 of the magazine. And if you remember from my previous demonstrations, I was showing you how to voice chords, which means how to control the tonal levels within the chord. And I'm going to give you another exercise, which is a slightly more advanced exercise for this, which you'll be able to apply to all sorts of different situations. It's what I call miming. And that simply means that instead of allowing the keys to speak, or the notes to sound, I'm touching the keys on the surface without sounding them. Let's look at this extract from Debussy's Clair de Lune. It's the Un poco mosso section, which I do describe in the magazine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play the top part of the right hand, which is the melody, etc., together with the bottom part of the left hand, which is actually the bass line. Now the bass line, even though this is not the world's greatest tune by any means, it supports the rest of the music above it. Now in the middle between those two events, or two lines, I've got an accompaniment in semiquavers, which is really just broken chords. Now if I don't control my texture, if I don't voice this, listen to how it all congeals together. So this is bad playing. Do you hear everything is on the same tonal level? Now let me play it better. I think what you'll hear there is that I've put the accompaniment semiquavers into the background. They're back at the back of the stage. Now, how do I do that? It does take quite a bit of doing. Now, the miming exercise will help you to achieve that. What I do is I play fully my upper right hand and my lower left hand, and at the same time as I'm doing that, I'm touching the surface of the keys of the accompaniment without allowing the notes to sound. But I'm being extremely precise about that. I'm not fudging the inside. I'm touching every single key, just not allowing it to sound. You'll find that that's an extremely powerful way of practicing, which will take a little bit of getting used to. It's not an easy thing to do, but with a bit of practice and a little bit of patience, you'll start to see the rewards of it. Now I'm going to show you a three-part process which is guaranteed to improve your accuracy in measuring distances from one chord to another, which is sometimes hard to guarantee when we're playing. Sometimes we land on something we wished we hadn't landed on, and which wasn't actually specified by the composer. So I'm going to play you now two chords from Debussy's Clair de Lune. Again, you'll find this in the magazine. This is the example I use in my article. Now I have to be able to move from this position on the keyboard to this position on the keyboard, and I have to be able to make that movement directly without fumbling, because I've only got a quaver's rest to get from here to here. Now I'm going to show you how you can practice that, not just in this piece obviously, but in any situation where you find you've got to jump from place A to place B. What I first do, and this is what I call quick cover, I hold down my first chord. I'm sitting at the bottom of the keys, but I'm thinking about where I've got to move to, and I'm looking at it on the keyboard. And when I'm ready to move, I move directly and quickly to the surface, and this is really important, to the surface of the next chord. Let me show you now. Without playing, and I check to see that I didn't fumble. I check to see that I'm in the dead center of each of those keys, that I don't have my thumb halfway between the two white keys, or that I have a second finger hanging off a black key. Dead center, let me show you that again. If it wasn't dead center, or you didn't get there directly, then you're not allowed to play it. So this is what it looks like. Then I can play it. The second part of the process is what I call springboarding, where I, instead of playing that first chord, I sit on the surface of the keys, and when I'm ready, again, I have to be thinking about where I'm going. I use the first chord as a springboard to propel myself from this event to that event. Now, if you land incorrectly, your first instinct will be to correct it. Let me deliberately, I hasten to add, make an error. Now what I did there is I played in my right hand an A flat instead of a B flat. Now I don't immediately correct it. I say, okay, what did I not manage to achieve? I simply didn't have enough distance between my thumb and my second finger. So when I repeat that, I keep that in mind. And then I make the adjustment. The third part of this process is what I call selective landing. These are all my own terms. I call it selective landing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to decide in advance which notes of the chord I'm going to play first. So I play my first chord, and I've decided I'm going to play the two middle notes. And then I let the other keys touch in the notes. Let me do that again with a different combination. Let me decide now to play all the Fs, which happen to be all the white keys in that chord. And then after that, I touch in the remaining notes. If you use all three of those processes, it's really one process in three parts, you'll find that you've got so much more control over measuring distances and leaps. People seem to have problems repeating chords, and I'm going to show you how on a grand piano you can lift the keys only halfway to the top before you repeat. Let me show you that. This is a chord, a random chord, and I'm lifting the keys only halfway up before repeating them. Listen to how it sounds if I lifted them. They're very spiky. They're too strong, particularly if they're an accompaniment. So listen to the difference. That's all the way up. This is halfway. Now, in order to achieve that, I need to have a certain firmness in my fingers and a certain firmness in my wrist. If I'm floppy, I have no control at all of whether they sound or how they sound. Now, if I go to the example that we have in the magazine by Fibbage, let me show you that. See how I'm only releasing the keys partially, and that gives me absolute control over those. Now, if we have faster chords, and I'm now going to use an example from the trio section of the tango, the Brazilian tango by Nazareth that we have in the magazine. If I don't keep mobile, I'm going to get stuck, I'm going to jam. Let me show you now how I would suggest tackling repeated chords by playing each chord using a different spot on the surface of the key. Do you see what I'm doing there? I'm going from out of the key to inside the key. And I'm talking about the length of the keyboard now. But I'm still aiming to keep my hand inside. I'd like to end this demonstration by showing you how to play full, strong chords without tension. And I'm going to start off with a process I call, or a technique that I call the shove, which is where I have my hand very firm on the surface of the chord. This is really important. Have it on the surface of the chord that you're about to play, and with one thrust from your back and your shoulders, aim to push the piano away from you. Now, what is vital about this is that as soon as you sense the key beds, when you've made your sound and you've felt the bottoms of the keys to switch off that energy so that you don't hold on to what will become tension. So it's effort release. And that all happens simultaneously, effort release. The second way I'm going to show you is what I call the grab, which uses this very anatomically natural movement that we all can do with no problems and no tension ever. If I do now, I have my fingers on the surface of the same chord, I'm going to pull my fingers in to the palm of my hand, but I'm going to stop that movement when I feel the key bed. And again, switch off effort instantaneously, so it's effort release. That's really vital. Otherwise, if you don't consciously switch off that effort, you'll carry it with you to your next chord. And one thing we can guarantee is that tension in our arms equates to lack of mobility across the keyboard. Let me show you the two side by side. This is the shove, and this is the grab. You can use either. I find the grab more useful when I've got fast chords that need to be fairly strong, one after the other. The main thing to remember about the exercises that I've shown you is that each finger plays its role in chord playing, that we have to have a hand that is fully in control, so that the fingers are rather like the soldiers and we are rather like the sergeant major who commands something that they have to be able to carry out. As with any training, any exercise, it relies on repetition. You have to be doing this often. Doing it once won't really give you any tangible results that you can build on. So I hope you've enjoyed these demonstrations, and I look forward to joining you again soon.